We're talking performance breathing today, so we're gonna get started by doing a little reset breathing. So I want everybody to just exhale all your air out. Take a nice deep breath in through the nose. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. That was just as much for me as it was for you. So why performance breathing? The way that we breathe influences every system and every cell in the body. It happens mostly unconsciously, and you're doing it about 20,000 times per day. It is very closely tied to our movement capabilities, our mobility, our emotional regulation, pain, digestion, sleep. Literally everything is tied to the way we breathe. Therefore, it's one of the most accessible and powerful tools for optimizing your health, your performance, and your longevity. And I mentioned the word tools because today is about a tools-based approach. So when we're talking about breathwork tools, step one is we have to learn the tools, become aware of them, know that they even exist. Then we have to practice those tools. We have to start implementing those tools so that we can actually become a little bit more efficient with how we use them. Then, with more specified practice and by adapting them to yourself, we can sharpen those tools. And ultimately, the goal is to build a broad toolbox so that you have the right tool for the right job. And that's what we're going to focus on today, is one really important tool that we can use during high-intensity exercise. Because we've been here, I've been watching you guys out there training like crazy, so we're going to talk about how can we use the breath as a tool to recover between intervals of high-intensity exercise. But some important reminders before we get there. You have to start with the basics first. So I'm teaching you today a higher intensity tool, but the way you breathe at rest will ultimately dictate the way you breathe during exercise. So you have to start with fundamentals, build a solid foundation, fix any underlying issues, build your capacity, develop some control, and then you can start to layer on top of that these higher intensity tools that I'm going to teach you today. I want to give you just a brief background in breathing physiology so that you can understand the why behind what we're going to talk about today. I've prepared some pretty crazy visuals for you. I made these myself. So, these are our two primary respiratory gases, oxygen, carbon dioxide. When we breathe, our body is trying to create balance between these two things. Balance is, every system in the body is trying to create balance at all times. Oxygen is one of our primary fuel sources for our cells, for our tissues, for all activity. Carbon dioxide is a byproduct that's built up from that work. So when we start to exercise, our body starts to demand more oxygen. Our muscles need it, our organs need it, our brain needs it to function. And as we start doing more work, we start building up carbon dioxide. So the higher intensity the exercise, the more your body starts to do this. That's why you start breathing harder. Your body says, I need to get rid of this carbon dioxide, I need to get more oxygen in, so I have to breathe faster in order to create balance. So that's going to be really important to understand this protocol that we're going to go through here. All right, so this protocol is a real-time downshift. When I say real-time, that means that this is a tool that we can use in the moment of high stress or high intensity exercise. And that's different from an offline tool. An offline tool is something that we use to help us generally mitigate stress. And I say that because one of the big problems I see in breathwork in general and breathwork specialists is there's a lot of people who are trying to teach offline tools to be used in real time. I've been fortunate to work with a lot of people in the military and law enforcement community, and I've been seeing this box breathing being taught everywhere. Everybody talks about it, but they talk about it like they're going to go use it in a state of high-intensity activity or stress. People are teaching it to go, when you're running into a burning building, do a 4-4-4-4 box breathing protocol. Nobody's doing that because as those blood gases become super imbalanced, your body's trying to tell you to breathe faster to balance those back out. So everybody talks about this box breathing protocol, which is a great offline tool, but it doesn't work in real time. And if you haven't worked with performance athletes or actually tried to implement these tools with military and law enforcement, you don't really find out that that just doesn't work. So our goal was to build these really simple tools that will work in all of these high intensity situations. So we're talking today in the context of exercise, but this is the same type of protocol that can be applied during a state of anxiety, panic attack, regular stress. It's the same protocol we're teaching outside for people when they get into the ice bath, which is a really heightened state of stress, but doesn't have the same respiratory demand that we just talked about, like high intensity exercise. So these principles apply no matter what the high stress situation is. Our goal is to have a tool that will help us to downshift. And the reason that these real-time tools work, and I use the term downshift, is because high intensity exercise, high stress activities, way up here. The nervous system, the respiratory demand is way up here. If I say, breathe in that 4-4-4 box breathing or these offline tools, I'm asking you to get here. But that's a huge gap. So we need tools that help us to bridge that gap. And that's what the downshift protocols are for. It'll help you to meet the nervous system where it's at, meet the respiratory demand where it's at, and then gradually, one stage at a time, bring it back down so you can get into that rest and digest and focus state that we're trying to get to. So that's our goal here, is to bridge that gap with these real-time tools. All right, so let's jump into the protocol. So a couple principles behind this protocol to keep in mind. There's 3 key things we're trying to do. Number 1 is get control. When I say get control, in this context of exercise, we're talking about get control of the breath, but we're also talking about get control of your body, get control of your mind, get control of your emotions, because all of those things link together to create these states of high stress. So we need to get control first. And we're going to get control by meeting the nervous system and meeting the respiratory demand where it's at, doing a fast-paced breathing pattern in the mouth and out the mouth. And the way I wrote this downshift protocol is 6-5-4, just so it's really simple to remember. And if nothing else, you leave here with a 6-5-4 downshift protocol tool. So step 1, get control. We're going to do that right now by inhaling big through the mouth, exhaling big through the mouth. It's going to sound just like this. We're going to do 6 of those all together. Ready? Go. Good. Now, just those 6 breaths, you might feel like a little weird sensation, because what you just did is created an imbalance in blood gases because you're at rest. So you maybe lowered that carbon dioxide down, and that gave you those little bit of sensations, but in exercise, carbon dioxide is going to be super high, so we're trying to bring it down. As soon as we do that, we get control of the breath through those fast patterns. Now, we're going to get nasal, so that's our principle number 2. Inhaling through the nose has a ton of benefits for health and for performance. We don't have the time today to go through all of those, but we want to get inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the mouth as fast as we possibly can. So stage 2 is going to be 5 power breaths in the nose and out the mouth. It's going to sound just like this. Okay, we're going to do 5 of those together. Big full inhales. If you didn't notice, I was doing this as I inhale because I want to create expansion around my torso, my belly, my ribs. I want everything to expand as I expand the lungs, and then it contracts as I exhale. Ready? Let's do these 5 power breaths. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Begin. Excellent. Now, one thing I saw there is a lot of this. That's okay. That's a topic for another time, but keep in mind that we want to be breathing into the belly and ribs. The more that we can breathe horizontally, the better off we're going to be able to take advantage of every single breath and not breathing vertically where my shoulders and everything elevate and rise. Okay, so pay attention to that. I'm giving you these tips so when you take this home and you start implementing and practicing this protocol, you know what to look for. Our last stage, and our most important stage, is 4 recovery breaths. Now, these are the breaths that are actually going to help you lower your heart rate, bring down your blood pressure, lower stress hormones. The only reason we're doing those first two stages is because we were here. If I told you to get into these recovery breaths right now, your body's gonna say, hell no, I can't exhale for that long. I got way too much CO2, I need to breathe. So we're trying to create some balance, bring these back down through those faster paced protocols in order to have the opportunity to get into the recovery breaths we're gonna do next. The focus of the recovery breaths, the principle here is slow down. So we're gonna slow the inhales a little bit, but we're really gonna focus on slowing the exhale. So we're gonna inhale through the nose, and we're gonna start to slow the exhale as we let it out through the mouth. It's gonna sound just like this. Okay, we're gonna do 4 of those all together. Ready? Begin. Now, those are our calming breaths that are going to bring us back into that state of relaxation. They're going to lower everything down so that we're ready for this next high-intensity interval. Now, a couple little key factors there. Those numbers are arbitrary. It's just a way for you to simply think 6, 5, 4. The goal is get to those recovery breaths as fast as you can. So if I just did 2 burpees here, I don't have to do those first 2 stages. My breath's not going to be that disturbed. I could stand right up and go and recover. But if I just did a 2-minute assault bike sprint, then I'm going to need to get control first. Then I'm going to get nasal as quick as I can, and then I can get into those recovery breaths. So let's do that whole thing one more time. 6 big power breaths in the mouth, out the mouth. Ready, go. Right into 5 power breaths in the nose, out the mouth. And now 4 recovery breaths. Slowing it down. Excellent. So that's our protocol. I highly recommend that you take that and you go start implementing it into exercise. Start practicing, start adapting it, start seeing what works for you and what doesn't work for you so you can have this tool to actually use. So remember, the knowledge of the tool you just got today, but that's not going to make you effective at using it. That's what, when we start to actually practice implementing these tools, that's what's going to help us to start broadening our toolbox. That habitual practice over time is what's going to really sharpen those tools so that you have them available so that you can use the right tool for the right job, particularly in this context, which is under high states of stress. The last thing that I want to leave you with today is you're taking those 20,000 breaths a day anyway. You get to choose whether your breathing is a weakness or a weapon. Choose wisely. Thank you.